Today is going to be an experiment. You can see this little window here. This is a show I found called, the heck is it? Supernoobs? Okay, I had never heard of this show until today, but it does seem to be pretty much emblematic of what you find both in terms of sort of the attitude and the energy level and in terms of the animation style that you'd see on a typical maybe Cartoon Network kind of show nowadays. So I thought to myself, you know, the tool set in OpenToonz has really tightened up a lot, especially with Jeremy Bullock just posted a new build he's calling OpenToonz Experimental that has a really interesting feature in that you can now, if I go ahead and draw something here and then I just go to another cell. Actually, I wonder if I can do it if I use this one. If I hit the D key, yeah, I have to go to another cell, and then I hit the D key, and OpenToonz automatically creates a duplicate, just like it does in the level strip. But now you can do that in the right in the drawing space. So that's kind of useful because, oh, just for things like lip sync. Okay, I mean, let's pretend this is a head. And in other words, what you want to do is save some time by not redrawing everything, but rather being able to just modify just what you want to modify, not the whole drawing. Now there's always been ways to do that with the S key. You could select part of the drawing and duplicate it and yada yada yada, but this is definitely a useful feature. So anyway, so now if I stretch this along here, you know, we've got that. You know, it's just kind of useful to be able to duplicate the drawings, as opposed to either having to do a cut and paste operation or creating a whole new drawing. So I know this is a feature I'm going to be using a lot. Okay, so my default level type is Toonz raster. In this case, I want a regular raster because I'm basically going to do some painting here. So what I'm going to do is, there was a spot in this show where the kid was outside, and I figured I'm just going to take a sample little bit from this show. Here it was. Okay. Yeah, I think it was right here. Okay, so basically there you go. You got this background that's like a out in the woods kind of thing. So step one is going to be to go ahead and paint the background. Now what I want to do is actually bear with me for half a second here, because what I'm doing is I'm browsing to the location of my anime project that I've been working on, because within that project I have a palette that I want to go ahead and steal right now. Okay, so hopefully this is going to give me what I was after. Yeah, that's what I wanted. So I'm going to take all these palette entries. I just dragged and dropped them. From, I've got this folder with the palettes, and it's called rasterdrawingpalette.tpl. I can go ahead and kill that now. So what I'm going to do is grab all these, cut them, and then paste them back into the main palette. Okay, we're in good shape now. So what we want to do basically is start painting. So in order to do that, the reason I'm using a raster level instead of a Toonz raster level is this. the Toonz raster levels now have the ability to use my paintbrushes. So you could do painting, painterly painting in a Toonz raster level now. The problem is that in the Toonz raster level, the behavior of the palette colors is the same. Well, I'll show you right now. Let's go. I'll just do a quick example. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this, and now you can see that I can go ahead and grab a my paintbrush even in a Toonz raster level. However, if I change the color in the Toonz raster level, OpenToonz keeps track of the color for me. That's actually that's not the behavior I want now. What I want now is to be able to do some painting, and I'm going to make my brush a little bigger here. Yeah. Okay, so now what I want to do is do some painting, but if I change the color, I just want to be able to paint in with a new color. Okay, makes sense? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to basically just the goal here is how quickly and can we do a good job of emulating the look and the aesthetic and maybe the underlying construction of a typical Cartoon Network type of show. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is get the sort of sky background, which in this case is sort of a greenish bluish. So I'm just gonna paint away here. All right, so and I'm going to give myself about I would say a couple minutes to get this blocked in. Now there's other ways we could have done this. We could have put this on a different layer and used the fill tool, but one of my objectives here is to have a very hand-painted sort of aesthetic to it. So, and you could argue that this is where the Toonz raster level would be useful, because if I do what I sort of just did a second ago and realize that the color isn't quite what I was after, well, you could change the color at the palette entry level. However, that's not really how I want to do it, so I'm gonna just and as you can see, they're using some environmental perspective to cause the colors to get lighter as they go off in the distance, so they're more saturated in the front. Okay, so, and the nice thing is I can sort of use my pressure sensitivity here to just really model the look that I'm after. So that feels pretty good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go just a little more yellowish. And let's just go ahead and block in that atmospheric perspective by just lightly brushing this in, and we sort of unify those two together. Okay, so that worked pretty well. All right, so now I'm going to lower this to, I'm going to say about 1, whoops. Okay, 3 is the max, so let's go 2. Okay, now what do we want to do here? I'm thinking what we want to do is sort of select a overall tonal level here. Yes, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to modify the hue. So let's see how this works. Okay, that works fine. So what we're going to do, though, I should say, is we're going to work from back to front. So what I'll do is hit the R key to sample that color, and then we're just going to lower the value a little bit. Back to the brush, and I think, yeah, okay, so let's put that back to 0, and now we're going to go ahead and actually do some painting. And I'm just going to add a couple tree trunks. Alright, and then we're going to rotate this a little bit, just because it appears to me that they're just going for variety. And that, by the way, it appears to me that the bottoms of these tree trunks don't matter at all, because I want to make this a little bigger actually, because it's going to be covered by the bushes. So, and this doesn't have to be exactly the way they did it, but just kind of similar. Okay. Okay. Okay, so fine. Now we're going to make this big again. And we're just going to find that middle tone right there. And you can see that my version already has a little different level of degree of color variation. What they did is very flat, so I need to be careful. Actually, I'm going to select a different brush, and we just want to, in other words, I'm trying to discipline myself to adhere to the aesthetic that they sort of established, right, with this show. So I don't want to get too creative in the sense of saying, oh, I don't like what they did, I'm going to do it my way. No, the objective here is to do it their way, whether I like it or not. Okay, so I'm going to put it in that one, and I'm going to make this bigger, and watch this. Yeah. And okay, so I'm already seeing ways that I can use some creative approaches to my brushes to save time, which is I'm just making the brush, making a really big bushy shape, and then making the brush smaller. And okay, so what we're going to do here is go a slight value up, and then go to more of a green tone. Okay, and I can go ahead and I'm going to make this slightly yellower. Okay, and I can actually just block these shapes in like this. So again, one of the things I'm trying to do here is I'm really going for speed. Okay, so now I can use the R key to sample the exact colors I want, and now all I have to do is just sort of add these additional bits of texture like that. Because remember, we're going to fix the edges by painting some of the ground back over top of this. So like I said, the whole point is, can we match what we see? Because I think if you were going to go try to get a job, let's say, creating animation for, if you want to get a gig on this show, then you need to do whatever it is they're doing. Okay, does that look good? Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, so now we've got to jump up here and sort of do the same thing with the... So this is where it's very much like drawing, figure drawing and that sort of thing, where I really want to just think about how does this feel. Okay, I'm going to bring the... So I'm just going to rotate the color a little bit. Okay. They've got a pretty aggressive, tree trunk here in the background that I sort of missed. So, and again, is it critical that it be in there? No, it's not critical. But since I'm sort of going for the idea of copying what they did, then I want to come, pretty close. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. And now we're going to grab this and just put that in front. Okay. Now we're going to save all. I actually don't have. And yeah, let's put it in the sandbox. What was this? This show was called Supernoobs, I think. We'll call this Supernoob 01. I think that's what it's called. I don't even know that. I mean, I've never seen this show before today. So, okay. So there is a little bit of more dark activity here in the back that I do want to sort of get in there a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of put in a little bit more of this. Then I'm going to sample that. And the whole idea, again, is just to paint over top. Yep. R key to sample a color. Okay. And now, man, it's really tempting to try to improve it. But I am going to, excuse me, I'm going to resist the temptation to try to improve it today. R key. Okay, save all. All right, take a sip. Okay. I wonder what happens if we move this around, if I make this bigger. Okay, I see. It sort of changes the, yeah, it changes a little bit in OBS. So, bear with me for just a moment. Where we sort of, wait. Okay, that's close enough for rock and roll. Okay, so now what is of interest now is the characters, okay? And that's really probably the meat and potatoes of what you'd be interested in. So I'm just going to stretch this level out. And I'm going to go forward here. There's probably going to be a close-up. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now let's take a look at this guy. First thing we notice is he's either constructed with some really, really sharp raster lines, or else he's a vector object. The likelihood is he's a vector object. So since the vector tools in OpenToonz have definitely been improving, I'm going to go ahead and create a vector level. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and just bring this down here for the moment. And let's see what we can do with this. Now, construction-wise, I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to give his head. The head and the hair could probably go together. The head, the hair, yes, the head and the hair. But we're going to want to put the eyes and the mouth on a separate level. And I would say the neck and the rest of the body on separate levels. Okay, so Control Save. So the nice thing about a vector level is that we can really control our lines. And what I'm actually going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and do a polyline for this. Okay, so as I'm looking at his, let me just sort of show you what I'm thinking here. Okay, if I were to create a polyline where I literally draw probably 1, 2, 3, and actually maybe only two nodes. Let's have a look. And I'm gonna put him a little more to the left here. So okay, so then what I'm gonna do is hit the C key and just stretch this down here. Okay. So that was pretty quick and easy. Okay. So I'm gonna keep using the G key. And okay, well, maybe I'm not going to use the G key. I'm going to go ahead and use the B key because I really want the snapping. If I'm going to have snapping on here, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and limit the size of my lines. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a range of 1 to 1 so that the lines are all going to be the same width. Then I'm going to just turn pressure off, and I want snapping on. So let's see. Yeah, okay, it sees the snapping there. Okay, so to make my life a little easier, I'm going to go ahead and turn the opacity of the background down. It just makes it easier to see what's going on here. Okay, so that snapping does appear to be working. And if I go ahead and click, but hit the shift key, it's going to create a straight line for me. And what I'm going to do is, I don't know if this is sort of definitively the best way to do it, but that's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to turn on the fill check. Okay, according to the fill check, we're in good shape. All this is going to fill just fine. So now what I'm going to do is just going to see, I'm not used to the vector levels so much. I don't really use them because for anime you're kind of generally going for that more hand-drawn aesthetic. So okay, so now I'm gonna, the way I would approach this is I would go into edit mode here. I mean, I'd be really thinking about what nodes do I not need. I want to get rid of everything I don't need because I'm really going for a very vectory, cartoony aesthetic here. Now the behavior right there of the curve is a little strange. A little strange, I would say. Okay, now I believe if I hit the Alt key, it will turn that back into a nice little pointy for me, which is good. And now I can take this. Yeah, the way this is sort of doing the math on this and interpolating it is a bit bizarre, actually. I'm going to go ahead and insert, I'm going to hit Control and insert another node because, let's see, let's set a nonlinear point there. Why is that so pointy? Okay, and now that action sort of smoothed it out. So, this is kind of one of those things with OpenToonz where you're just kind of going, yeah, I don't know. Seems to be slightly strange behavior, but okay. So there's that guy's probably erroneous. That guy's probably erroneous. Okay, that's probably fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and let that curve. Okay, so now somewhat contrary to what I said earlier, I'm not necessarily trying to make this character a perfect match at all. I just I want to match the basic aesthetic. The style. I want to match the style, but I don't want to take the time here today to get it like totally exact. So okay, so boom, just a little bit of these lines to give it some character. I'm going to hit the shift key so that it makes straight lines. It's definitely quite useful. Okay, and I've clearly gotten this whole part of it way out of whack compared to the drawing, but that's, compared to the cartoon. Okay, but that's okay. Alright, so now let's go Control CV and fill this. Hopefully, yep, that filled just fine. So now I can go ahead and we want a fairly saturated yellowy kind of color. Looks to me like they're a little orangier, so it's kind of nice. I can look up at the screen here and see. And also, by the way, we can also see that even though this is a close-up, well, I don't know. Actually, I guess the size relative to the background is probably about right. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, and since I sort of have infinite resolution with a vector level, I can go ahead and use the animate tool to whoopsie poo. Okay, so what do we want to do? Let's go ahead and let's try adding a node. Okay, I don't like the way that's causing it to not fill, but that's kind of typical actually of OpenToonz. Okay, and should the hue move a little bit towards the red? I think so, and should be a little more saturated. Okay, something like that. Okay, so essentially I'm going to say this will work. I want to remove that node in the middle. And I'm going to say that I think I'm going to hit the S key. Okay, that's a little strange behavior for sure. But what I'm going to do is, okay, so what I'm going to do is up here I'm going to switch it to 2. Okay, and so now in the brush tool I'm going to also make that 2 so that going forward I have the right basic sizing. Okay, so now I really hate to do this because it's going to break my coloring, but it is what it is. I've got to get okay. You see all kinds of mess here, so let's just go in and let's clean up a little bit. Okay, that definitely didn't work. There's a surprising amount of noise in here, and I'm going through this process because if you were doing this, you would have to deal with going through and cleaning it up. Okay, so what I want to do is get rid of that. Okay, so what's the takeaway here? The takeaway would be, for me, is that if you're going to do a Toonz vector level, you want to get your drawings. See, that to me, that's a bit of a bug. Why would that node even be there? Okay, you want to get your drawing tight before you go ahead and paint it, because the fine-tuning process is definitely going to break some of your paint. So one thing here I will note is that I am working mostly with the mouse. I'm no longer using the stylus because there's not really any reason to. But okay, let's put a nose on this guy. And okay. Is that okay? Well, it's not as turned up. Okay, yeah, see, look. Bug City here. Bug City. C key. What do? I guess I select it with the S key. Okay. So that's a little annoying for sure. what I'm after here is making the character's designs, the components of the character sufficiently simple that if I want to edit and I want to change it or I want to make it better in some way, that it's relatively easy to do so. I could grab this with the S key. I'm going to actually go to freehand mode. Okay, so if I grab this, then I can reposition that and, you know, modify it fairly easily. So there's that. Alright, so here we're going to do a, as much as I don't really enjoy it, I'm going to do a Toonz vector level again here. And okay, so there's clearly some pressure sensitivity going on here. So I'm not sure what the right answer is here, but oh, I hate this about OpenToonz. You have to just, it's like you have to mouse over it. Until you do it, you don't really understand what's going on right there and how it's frustrating, but it's like it doesn't, the way the interface works isn't totally intuitive. It's not like most software. Okay, so, okay, yes and no. Okay, the max should be 8 or something like that. So let's just see. Okay, once again, as you can see, OpenToonz left an erroneous dot. Okay, and as you can also see, in the original cartoon, there's some, I would say the mitering, if I'm using the correct term, on the vector. I better save my work. The mitering seems to be a bit odd, so I'm going to grab this. Yeah, here we go. And I've never done this before, by the way. I want to make the cap square. Doesn't seem to have done anything. Let's play with the tire pump a little bit here. Okay, and apologize, I'm looking straight at things and not seeing them, but okay. Okay, it does have the square edge, so alright, so I'm kind of making this up as I go along, but what I'm going to say is let's make the size of this really small so that can go down essentially to 0. And of course, man, that's frustrating. Look at that. Erroneous little nodes. Sorry, I want the tire pump tool. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and bring this down, but I want to bring this up. Yeah, man, trying to smooth that out is a pain in the butt. There's probably any number of other applications that you could use for vector. Like right now, I'm clicking. I've hit the C key and I'm clicking, and nothing was happening. Okay, so I'm going to try to smooth this out by actually getting rid of nodes and see if that helps. Let's get rid of all except the 2. Okay, that actually did what we were after. Yeah, not too bad, as a matter of fact. Okay, except obviously the tire pump situation is really out of whack. So now the question becomes, does the tire pump, I'm going to make this bigger and see if I can sort of fool it. Okay. Does the tire pump add nodes? I've always wondered that, and it does. Boy, that's unfortunate. I really wish it didn't. But I'm going to say, actually, let's make that a linear control point. And then by doing that, the Bezier handles, there's probably a quick way to ensure that the what am I trying to say here? see, the problem is OpenToonz, it's the interface. It's like you grab stuff, but it doesn't grab it. Okay, and the way it's deciding right there, this is almost any vector art application ever created, like Inkscape or Illustrator. What I'm trying to do right now in 10 minutes would take 10 seconds. The fact that this is so amazingly difficult is literally tragic to me. It's kind of pathetic. You know, clearly this transition from one level of thickness to the other is wacky at best. You know, so you have this little divot there where it's not the size you wanted. So anyway, I'm gonna quit there in terms of the in terms of fighting with it, and this one hopefully will be a little easier. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the tire pump. I'm gonna make, okay, why is that doing that? Oh, this is where I tend to want to cuss. It's like, really? That's what it's going to do. It's supposed to be square. Oh, and that's why. Because OpenToonz created an erroneous... Well, anyway, folks, if anyone out there has ever wondered why I don't favor OpenToonz vector levels, you're seeing a good explanation of why. Because it's, I mean, to me, that eyebrow right there looks literally stupid. That is sufficiently egregious to me to say, if the animation team was working on this show and I was the boss and they brought this to me, I'd say, what are you thinking? Okay. Now, am I being too picky? Yeah, maybe. But under the hood, you know, this is clearly either one or two Bezier nodes, and it just works. So I don't know. I have no idea what software they use. It could be Flash, you know. But anyway, my point is that it is so difficult in OpenToonz to do this kind of stuff that it makes you want to just scream. But there it is. That's the software we're going to use. So I'm going to put the actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to delete this keyframe right here, so that I can just get this part lined up correctly. And that way, when I make that adjustment, I'm going to adjust the head. And let's see here. Since we like to suffer, I'm going to go ahead and do another vector level here. Okay, S key in this level. Grab the nose. Put that over there. And okay, so I'm going to hit the G key. And boom, 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 boom. Create a closed shape. Definitely seeing one thing there that's a bit odd, but yeah. Okay, so let's make that. I just hit the Alt key. So what I see is that basically, what happens if we delete this? Okay, that's better, actually. Yes, that's definitely better. Now the problem we're going to have is that in the show, he's got little lines to represent his teeth. So let's fill that, and then I think on the show it's pretty much like that. And then I'm going to go Control C, Control V, and I'm going to just create a little darker tone here, so that I can go the B key and just go okay. Okay, this is definitely an interesting point. Okay, so now those areas will not fill. Well, once again, OpenToonz vector levels, fill check. Why can't we? I mean, if you're gonna, you could do it this way, actually deliberately leave a little gap, but the question becomes why would this shape that was created with the G key, which is from its very creation by definition a closed shape, and yet OpenToonz doesn't want to see it as a closed shape. It is frankly a bit bizarre. And so again, as I said, I can't, you can see what's happening. It's like you can't believe the software could actually be this stupid, and it's putting me in rant mode. I'm getting to the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to start ranting here, because it's like, seriously, dudes, did the developers ever even think about actually testing this software before they released it? Don't think so. Because it's like, how do you miss that? How do you miss it? I don't know. And it won't fill. It will not fill. All right, I think I have to go because the postman's here, so